restoring men in history, and it's a magnificent one day. Donald Trump, Elon Musk at the Oval Office. We got great clips for you today, and it's super important to your success in life, man, for your ability to be able to rise, that we have to deal with the administrative state. We've talked about it so often. In fact, at the groups I used to talk about it, and people say, well, that's impossible. Some people say, we'll never eliminate the administrative state. Well, we're taking a look, and look how much we've wanted. We've said it, we've thought it. How many of us have wanted someone to look at big government and look at the waste, fraud, and corruption? We know it's there. We knew it was there. And finally, Elon Musk and Donald Trump are standing against the establishment, taking a look at it line by line, and look at the fight that they're encountering. Look at the Democrats. We showed you clips in that last video of how they were fighting and standing up to them. Didn't want you, the American people, to see where your money was going, or I'll say it in a worse way, how they create debt and then you pay at the kitchen table. You pay with your standard of living. You pay with your purchasing power. You just can't get as much when they're spending money like this. So the size and scope of government, we've wanted this for so long. One of the few guys, Ron Paul, had talked about it. We have known about this corruption and fraud and waste in the federal government. We also talk often about how far they went beyond their enumerated powers, and we must restrain the federal government to its enumerated powers. Right, Kurt and Matt? So this is just a magnificent one for me. I've been so excited about the last 2 weeks in government. I think it's a historic time in America and one of the greatest times in America. So again, the key is curtailing and restraining the federal government. And this is the start, the beginning of it. If we can find the waste, fraud, and corruption, it's an argument that big government has failed, and we need to restore our country to the limited government that was ratified and restrained the federal government to its enumerated powers. That's the next step, and ending all unconstitutional agencies. So let's go on to this magnificent first clip. Go.
I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge, and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to, if you sorry. So, tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the President, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix.
So hopefully this can return the power to the people in the states like it was ratified to be, where it was supposed to sit. So most powers were retained by the states. The states gave the federal government a little bit of power. Returning power to the people in the states is a hopeful end of this. Transparency, he tells you the why here. He's telling you everything, and they're accusing him, you're not transparent, you're not transparent. He's completely being transparent. He's putting it all over X, he's putting it all over the Doge, he's putting it everywhere. And you, the people, deserve to know what's going on. It's your government, of the people, by the people, for the people. And that is also correct. We ratified how many branches of government? Not 4, 3. There was no administrative setup that would be unaccountable to you, the people. and that would be incredibly difficult to fire. He talks about the founders, but let's also mention the ratifiers. They did not ratify a fourth branch, unaccountable, with no checks and balances. You must have checks and balances on the three branches of government. There was never a fourth, and there have to be checks and balances, separation of powers. You can't have some agency enforcing the law and writing the law. That's the job of Congress, to write it, and you can't have this in court. We'll get into judges and courts in another day because they have gone beyond their enumerated powers as well, and we have said that for a long time. So the Constitution that was ratified, Madison even said the House of Representatives should have an intimate dependence on and sympathy with the people. That's you, the American people. He wanted the House to be able to respond to you. That's why it was set up to be every 2 years. It was by design. It was a plan so that you could have an effect. So that if you were unhappy with your elected representatives, you could replace them in 2 years. And we have to do a better job of that. We have to primary the people that aren't following your wishes, because that's supposed to be the House of Representatives. What can you do with a bureaucrat that doesn't want to show you what they spend, where it's going, and how they're spending it? An unelected bureaucrat who has no consequences, who is difficult to fire, who has no checks and balances on them. And he doesn't or she doesn't even know where the money's going, maybe, or maybe they do, right? So Elon is 100% here. We did not form a bureaucracy. We formed a republic. Government's supposed to be for you, not for bureaucrats. The reps and senators work for you. Separation of powers is a large key to our Constitution. If you don't have separation of powers, your freedom is in jeopardy. Madison said this in Federalist 47. The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, notice he doesn't name an administrative state there in a fourth branch, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of what? Tyranny. Let's go to clip 2.
I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense, but if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
For America to continue as a nation, we've got, and we've talked about for years and years and years, we've got to handle the debt and deficits. We cannot continue to spend like this for you to have your freedom, for you to have a high standard of living, for you to have purchasing power that increases, for your children and grandchildren to have a better life, for America to go on forever, because we love America and we want it to go on forever. Now, he is facing attacks, Elon Musk, trying to give you a better life. Donald Trump is facing attacks, trying to give you an incredible life. These men are fantastic. In the last video, you saw, though, the opposition, the Democrats, standing opposed to them, of you, the American people, knowing line by line, of you knowing where either the debt's going or your money's going. What's hurting you at the kitchen table? What's hurting you from having better, nicer things? What's preventing you from increasing? So who's paying for this? You. George Washington talked about the importance of debt. He was given his last farewell address. I love this. We had just been requested. We're going to read it tonight in the Orange County Gentlemen's Group, Washington's farewell address. It's one of my favorite of all time because he warned the nation about what not to do. And you know what? Congress has not followed it. The administrative state has not followed it. Congress hasn't reigned in the administrative. There's been a lot of failure with big government. And one of the major points of this video should prove to you that we need to return to the limited government that was ratified and get away from big government. It has failed you. This is what George Washington said about debt in his farewell address, and it's a beautiful address. We've got a whole video on it. As a very important source of strength and security, cherish public credit. One method of preserving it is to use it as sparingly as possible. Look how far away we are from that, ladies and gentlemen. And what does it cost? Whom does it cost? It costs you. Avoiding occasions of expense by cultivating peace, right? We don't want to be running around to wars costing you. But remembering also that timely disbursements to prepare for danger frequently prevent much greater disbursements to repel it. Avoiding likewise the accumulation of debt. We've got to avoid the accumulation of debt. We're so far away from this address. This is the father of the country. but by vigorous exertions in time of peace to discharge the debts. Are we doing that? Are we listening to George Washington, the father of the country? Which unavoidable wars, look where we've been going all around. Look at Ukraine and all this mess we've been in, costing you. Not ungenerously throwing upon posterity the burden which we ourselves ought to bear. The execution of these maxims belongs to your representatives, but it is necessary that public opinion should cooperate. It's up to you, public opinion. You've got to call your reps. You've got to get on them. You've got to say, we want to see it line by line. Help Elon Musk and Donald Trump do this. They are fighting and standing for you. Help them. They're trying to restore the nation for you, the American people. We want to get back to the ratifiers' vision of this country and the founding principles. Decrease the debt and deficit spending so you can have a better life, so you can dream again, so the American dream can rise again in America. Notice he says to your representatives, not to bureaucrats, not to the administrative state. Washington would be horrified at the debt of this country. You want to return to the vision of the founders and the founding father, George Washington, father of the country? Reduce the debt, reduce the deficit, reduce the size and scope of government, and return and restore limited government that was ratified. Restrain the government, the federal government, to its enumerated powers. So you want a high standard of living? Reduce the spending of the federal government. Let's go on to clip 3.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, if you look at, say, Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list.
So we've wanted this for so long. Is this amazing? For so long, we've wanted someone to say it and take action because we knew there was fraud, waste, and corruption. You get a government this big and you're going to have a lot of corruption, waste, and fraud. And this administrative state, I'm going to say it over and over and over, is so terrible for freedom. They can't track it. They don't even have a system to identify where the money is going. No oversight, or very little oversight, for these elected bureaucrats, and difficult to fire. So this has been a brave stand against the establishment for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Elon Musk didn't have to do it. Donald Trump didn't have to do it. So we've wanted Congress and the people that you elected to do this for so long, but it took Donald Trump and Elon Musk willing to take the arrows for you, the American people. We've said it so long. We've wanted it for so many years, and it's happening, and we should be so grateful and excited. Let's go on to the next clip.
There's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two.
So again, just wasting Social Security. which could be a whole story, but he's funny too here. Elon Musk is just magnificent here. It's a great show, isn't it? I mean, it may be the greatest show on the earth right now that we're having the opportunity to see as Americans, our country, be brought back. And you see the epic failure of big government. No identifying information, not knowing where the money's going. Let's go on to the next clip.
So people don't leave us quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
What?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted, we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House, we won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people that don't get what they voted for, but in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Promises made, promises kept. Donald Trump and Elon Musk talked about this constantly, and you are fortunate that you have an American president and a billionaire like Elon Musk. They're actually doing what they said they would do. I don't have the patch on, but it's our motto: do what you say. And Elon Musk and Donald Trump are heroes doing what they said. Do you know how many presidents have promised things and then not done it? How many senators, how many reps? This is remarkable. Donald Trump is following through, withstanding the arrows for you, doing what he said. Taking a look at this. Musk talked about it with Joe Rogan on X, and he went around Pennsylvania giving speeches. Donald Trump talked about it constantly, and if you hear from the Democrats, you would think this was never mentioned. You voted for it. The American people knew, we all knew, things were going terribly wrong for you at the kitchen table, terribly wrong in your homes. We knew standard of living was decreasing. We knew your purchasing power was decreasing. Come on. This was needed. Americans voted for a different direction. They voted for Donald Trump, and they knew they were getting Elon Musk with him. This was all promised, and it was kept. And we should all be grateful for it. But it is your government. And bureaucrats are not supposed to be gods or kings that cannot be fired. We broke away from a king. This government is of the people, by the people, for the people. Musk is giving you transparency, and I think we're going to find out how much corruption, waste, and fraud there has been, hurting you, hurting your families. All these regulations which hurt you from starting businesses and damage your ability to start businesses, hurt you from saving your money. So finally, thank you to Elon Musk and Donald Trump for standing up to the establishment for you, the American people. I'm grateful for Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I love this country and I want it to go on, and I want you to be able to soar to new heights that you've never before seen. Thank you.